Hello guys and gals, me Mutahar, and ladies and gentlemen, the title of this video might be painting the biggest target on my back, but to be honest with you, I am a little bit confident in this situation. So to give you an idea, I believe that I will not get hacked on my YouTube channel, okay? And the reality of it is for anybody that's watching my content for years now, you know that I am a very paranoid, security-focused channel that likes to protect myself at pretty much every near step. Now, obviously, nothing is unhackable. In fact, if anything, that drives a hacker to utmost ends. So I'd even be willing to prepare and pay like actual bounties if somebody even tries, just because ultimately security is a ever vigilant job. And if you're a YouTuber, there's a good chance that right now, this month, there's a good chance you're getting hacked, okay? Nothing is more dangerous on the internet than a YouTuber's sponsorship email around the time of December. Usually at this moment in time, plenty of actual channels come out and send you little emails and ask you, hey, do you want to cooperate on YouTube? Now, this set of emails comes from a YouTube channel known as the PC Security Channel. And of course, I'm just going to show off where like some of these emails they get. For instance, this one from G Fuel. Hey, we want to order a pre-roll ad. It almost sounds like they're trying to buy drugs off of him, dude. Hey, my name is Thomas. I'm an employee of G Fuel. We are sells energy drinks in the US. We are currently entering new trade markets around the world. And as such, we are buying advertising from media personalities. So anytime you see an email like this, somebody might just get excited. You know, they might get completely bricked up like, oh my God, I'm actually going to make some good money. Maybe I'll cover rent. Maybe I'll buy something nice for myself this Christmas. Then you look closely at the actual email address, and the domain is from volny.cz. Now, I've worked with G Fuel in the past, and I can confidently say volny.cz does not belong to their service. But the point is, anytime you get an email like this and you respond to it and they send you a follow-up where they then potentially have something known as a, SCR file that's pretending to be a PDF file, that is really dangerous. So according to the PC Security Channel, you'll find things like this agreement file, and again, it could be for any fake sponsorship. This is not real. Looking closely at that PDF file, you'll find out that this is actually a screensaver file. That if you run, you are actually going to launch a set of scripts that will steal the tokens from your system and send them off somewhere else. You probably noticed how Linus Tech Tips got hacked as well, and it was a similar situation. From what I understand, a sponsor email got through that was obviously not legitimate, and unfortunately somebody ran a program they really shouldn't have, and lo and behold, their YouTube login information was stolen. So one channel that I really enjoy, a channel that is a quite relic from the older era, is a channel known as Irate Gamer. Now, Irate Gamer's videos are so old that if you had actually went to his channel and looked up sorted by old, the oldest video is like 17 years old. In a year, or less than a year, that video can legally be old enough to drink with in Canada. Now, since then, Irate Gamer, if you're looking carefully, that channel doesn't exist anymore. And the reason it doesn't exist is it was hacked about a couple days ago, and that hack ended up with this guy's channel completely being thrown into the wind. Now, I've tried helping him in the background, and I'm still actually working on it, but looking in closer, according to the Irate Gamer, he had clicked into some, website, basically, signed on through it with his Google account, and as soon as he did that, literally in real time, as we were on the phone, his YouTube channel gets changed to something else. And these people are really fast and efficient. So for instance, as I was speaking and as his channel was revoked, he basically started getting things changed. So it says Irate Gamer, but you can see the profile picture has changed, the banners are being changed, and they're changing all these playlists to literally something from MicroStrategy. Again, his videos were still here for a brief period of time. Since then, obviously, even YouTube intervened. The channel was live streaming, and the live stream was around 100,000 live viewers, obviously all botted, running this, MicroStrategy aligned scam. And it's not that MicroStrategy is even behind this. It's just these people were trying to get individuals to click on and basically go to a crypto site where they could double their crypto money by entering a QR code. All of it was a fucking scam, and his channel was killed in the process. Now, obviously, the fans of Irate Gamer, if they start seeing this, they'll wonder, who the fuck is MicroStrategy and why am I subscribed to it? Now, MicroStrategy is an American company that is completely separate from the scam. They focus on business intelligence, mobile software, cloud-based services, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so immediately when you go to their website, it's a business website. This is CEO'd by, I think it's Michael Saylor, so pretty big name in cryptocurrency, which is probably the reason why hackers usually use his name and his branding to target individuals. You'll probably also notice things like Tesla streams, like Elon Musk is doubling your money and giving it away, and usually it's like a portion of a real video interview that he's done, and then followed up by AI voices and complete AI trash. But even worse for the YouTubers, if you decide to open some sponsorship deals, your account, your channel becomes this. Basically, at this point, your YouTube channel has been hijacked, and the only way to get it back is to get in contact with YouTube pretty quickly and actually file up some forms that claim your channel has been hijacked. And then YouTube will have entire teams that work to fix it. Unfortunately, Irate Gamer's channel is like literally so old that it actually predates a Google account, which makes this situation a little bit more difficult from my understanding. But hopefully, YouTube, please help this guy get his channel back. You know, he's actually so defeated at this moment in time that if he loses his channel, he probably won't come back to making YouTube videos. Which at that point, I'm actually going to be a little sad that somebody who I watch for paranormal investigations and actually occasionally reviewing the classic NES, SNES games, I'm going to be a little sad. To be honest, I'm old enough to remember the original AVGN, Angry Video Game Nerd versus Irate Gamer Wars, okay? I was in those comment sections 17 years ago. And now I'm fucking old, now I'm living a much different life, but I still yearn for those classic days. I hope YouTube ends up bringing his channel back, but it's time to move on to what YouTubers should be doing in order to prevent themselves from getting hacked like this. Now, again, if a channel like Irate Gamer and a channel as big as even Linus Tech Tips, and even other channels like Jake Lucky was talking about this too, his channel was actually hacked by these similar looking Ripple hackers. Another example of an actual hack that happened in the same way was this individual known as Shyway, who says he spent 6 years making YouTube content, educating people about Halo, and of course, with 62,000 subscribers, not a small feat, very impressive stuff, no matter what, hundreds of videos, again, each and every single one of those videos, I'm sure, meant a lot for this guy to make. All of it became a huge part of his livelihood, life's work, and it was all yoinked away in an instant by any hacker who turned it into a shitty crypto scam live stream. And of course, at this moment in time, YouTube even had come in and said, we know this isn't the news you want to hear, but the policy team confirmed your channel will remain terminated for violating our community guidelines, which is such an obvious joke because this guy clearly didn't violate it. His channel was hacked, and YouTube should be able to revert it. Again, it's a complicated mess, but it's one of those things where, again, if you're an enterprising YouTuber, no matter what your size is, this will always be a stressful point that can take away the entire wind from your sails. Look, it's not that these people can't hack you, okay? It's not that you can even make yourself completely unhackable. Remember, security is an ever-evolving game. For the channels involved, look, these guys are just content creators. Not everyone is going to walk into YouTube with a full understanding of how to protect yourself. If you have IT, cybersecurity backgrounds, generally you're a lot safer, but even then it can get a little bit hairy. There's only a couple channels that I think are run by paranoid nutjobs like me, and those channels would probably be people like Mental Outlaw, so Kenny. Kenny is actually pretty, secure in keeping his system safe and sound. John Hammond, cybersecurity dude out there. I think at this point, Jim Browning, who I believe actually had his channel hacked because of an AdSense scam that even I almost fell for. In his situation, I think even now he's pretty unhackable, okay? People who are in this space, who are paranoid because of the content they make, generally are the safest. So in order to protect yourself from getting hacked, one of the vectors that people are using, obviously, to hack you are emails or the web browser. Remember, when you're logged into youtube.com, what is basically happening is your tokens, your access and session tokens, are saved on your web browser. So when you're running a PDF file that actually turns out to be a piece of malware, that ends, or you launch a link just in general, that link or whatever is basically running a script or a program that steals those tokens from your system and sends it off to the hacker. Once the hacker grabs those tokens, Well, then they can go to town. They can start changing passwords, emails, recovery emails, two-factor authentication if they can. If it's totally, if the 2FA is weak, they can change all these things and make it effectively nearly impossible for you to get back in. And that's where you have to really beg for YouTube's help. So whether you go beg for them on Twitter or you fill out a form, you're going to go through one of the most stressful points as a content creator. So how do you prevent this from happening? Well, if you follow my channel long enough, you know that the answer is probably going to be virtual machines, okay? So to give you an idea, ladies and gentlemen, virtual machine software is not expensive, not out there, and most of you guys probably have computers that can run several virtual machines, all without actually skipping a beat. Now, there's a couple options that I can give you right now. For instance, one of them is a free option known as VirtualBox. Now, VirtualBox is completely free, and if you go to their website, you can download it for Windows, which I know most of you use. Mac OS is an option as well, whether you have an Intel Mac or an Apple Silicon Mac, meaning a Mac with the M processors, like I have one back here. And of course, Linux, and for people who use Solaris, you have those options as well. You download this, you launch it on your system, and bam, you can basically have free virtual machines for days. Now, I personally, in this situation, recommend something known as VMware. Now, recently, as of this year, VMware Workstation actually is free for personal use, meaning that if you want to just run virtual machines on your system with actual good performance, this option is there. So whether you're on PC and using Workstation, or you're on Mac where you can use Fusion, you too can achieve actual virtual machines. Now, I use VMs all the time. One reason is I play a lot of old PC games through virtual machines. So games that are running in Windows XP or really older versions of Windows, I run inside full VMs just because I don't like dealing with the hassle of patching them on my main system or anything. Shady software, always throw that shit into a virtual machine just for extra safety. But when it comes to things like web browsing, that's where I think today's topic really goes to. So when you download any of these virtual machine softwares and you fire them up on your system, usually you'll be given this blank screen right over here. Now in this situation, you can create a new virtual machine and it'll give you simple options like typical or custom. All you got to do is click typical just to make your life super easy, and then it'll ask you for an ISO image. Now in this situation, you can find different ISO image files, so you can go download entire operating systems. Now if you want something to be really easy, you can go do Windows 11 ISO download. And in this situation, you can go right to Microsoft's website and download an ISO file for Windows 11. So all you have to do is go down here, scroll to Windows 11 disk image for x64 devices, click the first option, hit download now, it'll validate your request, basically select any language, so English United States for me, and then of course it'll give you a few minutes, download the 64-bit version, and just save it anywhere on your drive. Now, if you want to be a little more safe, you can download things like Linux Mint, for instance, right? Which this is probably the easiest Linux distribution that I can recommend to anybody. Go to their website, click this download button, and just download the Cinnamon Edition. If you want it to be even more efficient, you can download XFCE. Now, installing Linux Mint is pretty simple on most systems. You basically... Now, there is one other option known as Qubes OS, which is a very secure operating system, very reasonably secure, one that does not work underneath a virtual machine, but uses virtual machine technology to make your system even safer. This is a much more advanced option that we'll talk about a little bit later in the video. But generally speaking, when you get access into these systems, you download an ISO file, so in the time we were yapping, we just downloaded Windows 11. Now to go back to the install over here, when you're the machine wizard, you select an ISO image, so depending on which operating system you want, to make it really easy, you go to Windows 11, and it'll even detect that you have Windows 11 installed. Hit next. And of course, name it whatever you want. So because we're going to be using this for web browsing, just call it Web Browser. And of course, hit next. And it'll ask you if you want to encrypt stuff. So obviously, because it's Windows 11, there's going to be things like TPM security requirements. Just do only the files needed to support a TPM. And you can enter a password if you want to, or just generate one and hit next. So of course, it'll ask you for hard drive space. I would just go with what the default is. 64 gigs may seem like a lot, but because we're using it as a web browser, it's not going to just take up 64 gigs right now. It'll balloon up to 64 gigs, and that'll matter if you're installing things within a virtual machine, which most of you probably won't be. Now hitting next, you have the last option to modify hardware. Now, generally speaking, if you've got the memory to go, you can increase it to something like 8 gigs. Remember, if your memory isn't being used, it's just being wasted. Now, I have 128 gigs on my system, but some of you guys might have 16 gigs, which in that case, you could go all the way back down to 4 gigs of memory, but I think 8 is kind of like a sweet spot no matter what. Processors, you can go all the way up to 4 if you wanted. I think 4 is very much the sweet spot, especially since all you'll be doing is browsing the web, or again, opening shady files. So of course, in this moment in time, you've got an ISO file and everything is set to go. You can accelerate 3D graphics just so things run a little bit smoother, hit the big close button, and just hit finish. It'll fire up the virtual machine, and because this is Windows, it'll do the entire installation process pretty much for you. Now, with virtual machines, you can fire up however many you want. So right now I have 2 virtual machines that I've fired up on my system, Windows 10 and Mint. So for instance, this is Linux Mint running right here, and then of course within one click I can switch over to Windows. Now the reason why you want to have these virtual machines is, again, most YouTubers, like I said earlier, were getting hacked literally because they were opening up actual scary malware or clicking links that they shouldn't have, and because they were on their main operating system with YouTube signed in, that was causing the actual hacks. Now, this is a great cheat that you can use because now, underneath a virtual machine, you can basically open up any web browser you want. Sadly, you have to start off with Microsoft Edge, but don't worry, Brave browser or Firefox is just a few taps away. And of course, at this moment in time, ladies and gentlemen, you now have a fully functional operating system. The other thing that I also do, and again, this isn't just for content creators. If you're a YouTuber or you're just like some random gamer watching my video, and your idea is I'm on Discord and people are sending weird things on Discord all the time or weird links, you can even run Discord within these virtual machines and just use them to isolate Discord or some of the shady aspects of the internet from your main system, where you do a lot more work than just YouTube. You could be dealing with your banks, the information that could be getting stolen, which banks are a lot more safer than YouTube, but you get the point. You could also be dealing with things like your school, actual things that contain personal files that you don't want to deal with the stress of getting hacked. Now, even when you watch YouTube videos, for instance, and you want to look up things like, I don't know, Daggerfall retrospective, because I swear to God, I watch these 6-hour-long videos of video games all the time. And of course, watching somebody's videos, like for instance, this guy's content right here, I can open up his video, and actually, because this virtual machine is given extra resources and it's given the actual VMware tools installed as a part of its automatic setup, you can run these videos in like 1440p, you can full screen them up, and again, you can even like play DRM protected content, and everything works just fine within this. So this is a fully functional web browser that is running in an operating system underneath my core operating system. So the point of the matter here is, again, without constantly repeating myself, this is a sandboxed environment. Now here's the thing, Windows is a very bloated operating system and it still runs fine even virtualized. But if you want to give extra resources and you want to be more performant, installing a version of Linux like Linux Mint is genuinely far more lighter on your resources, and you can do the same level of web browsing, and there's an added benefit that malware that isn't designed for Linux will generally not run, you know, since you have Windows malware that is primarily being targeted towards YouTubers, since most content creators mainline Windows. But again, right off the bat, you can go access, you know, your Expedia, you can do pretty much anything you want. Now, generally speaking, when you're using virtual machines to browse the internet like this, I would highly recommend that you only do general web browsing. Never sign into your Google account or your YouTube account or really any account in a virtual machine. Always retain to signing onto it with your actual main operating system. So at this moment in time, when you're a YouTuber and you're browsing the web, you now have a sandboxed environment that is separate from your main system, meaning that if you run any shady software in this virtual machine, there's a very good chance it will never bypass and steal those valuable tokens for not just your YouTube account, but really any account that these scumbags are trying to chase after. That is the reason why I highly went through this virtual machine strategy. And it's one of the biggest weapons in my arsenal to protect myself from the ever-evolving dangers on the internet. I mean, here's an entire game, Pager, running perfectly flawlessly under my system, right? Like, this is a full game running within this virtual machine. I remember even, like, when I was playing, the Asmongold horror game, people gave me some shit for running it in a VM, but that's the only reason why I think my YouTube channel hasn't been hacked. Running software, even if it's software that I guess most people trust, I don't take any risks, and I run any of these software in sandbox environments, just so I can be 100% safe on the internet. And again, when you're not using it, you can just keep these VMs effectively minimized, and again, they're not really chewing up any resources that wouldn't have been an issue anyways. Most modern computers in general can handle VMs like crazy. Most operating systems are designed for this stuff. The security that a virtual machine provides compared to regular, off-the-shelf computing is astronomically higher. Remember, virtual machines are used by big companies and enterprises, so the technologies out there like VMware, VirtualBox by Oracle, you've got Linux with KVM that is literally getting propped up by some of the biggest companies out there in the world. You've got Microsoft's Hyper-V, which again, a lot of these technologies are designed for enterprise clients, and those guys, their security is treated a lot more, intensely than you and I. It's one of the reasons why when you fire up an Xbox One, the similar concept here is when you fire that console up, you're effectively loading a virtual machine, and every game underneath your Xbox Series X or Xbox One device is always launching a virtual machine. Microsoft passes hardware to it, and it keeps things nice and sandboxed. Now, to end this video off, one of the most paranoid versions of operating systems, one that goes far beyond the scope of keeping yourself safe on YouTube, is something known as Qubes. Now, generally speaking, if you get something known as Balena Etcher, you download Qubes, like I showed you earlier through their website, you can flash that image to any flash drive that you have sitting around. And you can then take that flash drive and put it into any computer, and it will launch Qubes. Now, Qubes is an operating system that's powered by the Zen hypervisor, meaning that everything underneath that initial hypervisor, which is the main virtual machine, everything underneath is running on its own separate virtual machine. And the thing about Qubes is because everything underneath it is its own VM, things don't cross into each other. Everything is sandboxed, nothing can peek into each other, and you generally get actual safety by, again, having everything compartmentalized. But that is an extreme level of paranoia and security that might be more applicable to somebody like a journalist who probably doesn't want their information tracked, and somebody that doesn't trust their physical hardware getting stolen, and they just want to have that extra layer of security because they're dealing with some pretty dangerous situations that could end up with their life on the line. But look, I'm getting a bit too ahead of myself. That's its own separate video if you want me to really get into the nitty-gritty of Qubes, other than just cursorily like showing it off right now. Look, lots of YouTubers are getting hacked, and I know that I've talked a lot about, computer safety and security, but the thing is, safety and computer security is an ever-evolving battle. It doesn't stop because you learn one way to protect yourself. It stops when you actually stop learning, okay? When you stop catching up with all of the crazy hacks that are happening today, then you're putting yourself in serious danger. So even if you're not a YouTuber or a content creator with a large channel that can absolutely cause you a massive stress, right? Imagine if you're somebody who goes to school, you're somebody who works in an area where you're dealing with sensitive information. Security is paramount. If your personal information, like for instance, somebody hacks your Google account with your personal addresses, photographs, maybe compromising photographs you never want anybody to get access to, using the methods I showed you today and starting to actually sandbox most of your web browsing, which is, by the way, the biggest threat, the biggest vector of attack, opening a shady link, opening a shady PDF file, scanning a shady QR code, having some level of protection, having the ability to sandbox yourself is probably going to make you safer than 99% of the people out there on the internet right now. So ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you learned something today. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. I am out.